Hello everyone and welcome to this complete Premiere Pro course. In this training, we're going to learn Premiere Pro step by step, starting from scratch. This course is designed for absolute beginners, so you don't need any prior experience in video editing or with Premiere Pro. Instead of focusing only on theory, we'll work with real projects and practical exercises to build real editing skills. We'll start with the basics, create our first project, understand the workspace, and make a complete edit from start to finish. Then we'll move into color correction, audio editing, and powerful AI tools like subtitles and simple animations to make your videos look more professional. By the end of this course, you'll have the confidence to edit your own videos. So let's get started. Before we begin, you'll need to install Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm showing you a website where you can purchase and download the software. The link to this website is available in the description below. Just open the link, choose your version, and install Premiere Pro on your system. Once it's installed, you're ready to start the course. When you open Premiere Pro for the first time, the Start screen appears. Before we create a new project, we need to make sure that Premiere is running smoothly and that its settings are properly adjusted based on our system. So first, I go to the Edit menu and open Preferences. In the Appearance tab, you can change the theme color based on your personal taste. I choose Darkest, and I also enable accessible color contrast to make the interface clearer and easier on the eyes. Next, I go to the Audio tab. Here I enable the option Mute Input during timeline recording. This means that when I record my voice directly into the timeline, the microphone sound will not be played back live through the speakers or headphones. The audio will still be recorded, but I won't hear it in real time, which helps prevent echo and feedback. At the bottom of this tab, you'll see Manage Audio Plugins. This is where you can manage Premiere's audio plugins. We'll come back to this later if needed, but for now we don't have to change anything here. Then I move to the Audio Hardware tab. In Default Input, you should select your microphone. This allows you to record your voice directly inside Premiere whenever you need to. In Default Output, you choose which device Premiere uses to play sound. Usually this is already set correctly by default, especially if you only have one audio output device. The next important tab is Auto Save. This one is extremely important. Here we define how often Premiere automatically saves our project. This protects us from losing our work if the program crashes. I usually set it to every 5 minutes, which is a very good balance between safety and performance. For maximum project versions, I set it to 100. This means Premiere keeps up to 100 older versions of my project, so I can always go back to earlier stages if something goes wrong. Next, I go to the Media tab. Here I set default media scaling to Fit to Frame. This way, if the size of a video is different from the sequence size, Premiere automatically scales it to match the sequence. Media cache files are temporary files that Premiere creates to make playback smoother and to speed up audio and video processing. These files help the timeline run more smoothly and improve overall performance. It's best to store the media cache on an SSD because it makes the project run faster, reduces lag and stuttering, and significantly improves Premiere's overall performance. From here, we can also delete old cache files. We just need to click on the Delete button. A little lower, I enable Automatically Delete Cache Files and set it to 30 days. This means cache files older than 30 days will be deleted automatically. This helps prevent storage from filling up, keeps the system clean, and improves Premiere's performance over time. In the Memory tab, we decide how much RAM is allocated to Premiere and how much is left for other applications. Right now, my system has 16 gigabytes of RAM, and I assign 11 gigabytes to Premiere. The more RAM you give to Premiere, the smoother your editing experience will be. Next, I go to the Timeline tab. Here we can set the default duration for video and audio transitions. We can define it in frames or seconds. 1 second is a very good default value for transitions, and we can always change it later whenever we want. A bit lower, we set the default duration for still images. 5 seconds is a very common and practical choice. I also enable Snap Playhead, so that the playhead automatically snaps to cuts and clip edges. This makes editing more precise and much easier on the timeline. After all these settings are done, I click OK. Now, to create a new project in Premiere, we can click on New File or New Project on the left side of the Start screen. We use Open Project to open existing saved Premiere projects. I click on New Project. In this window, I first type the project name.in, the location section. I choose where the project will be saved. If possible, save your project on an SSD drive to get a smoother and faster performance in Premiere. I create a new folder on my desired drive and give it a name. Then I click OK, after that I click Save, and finally I click Create to build the project. At the top of the Start window, Premiere shows the location where the project is saved on the left side. You can see all the drives available on your system, and from there you can select the files you want to edit. For now, you don't need to do anything here. Just click on Skip. We enter the project very quickly. Now we see different panels that we will use for editing. First, this might look a bit confusing, but don't worry at all. You will learn everything very quickly. First, I close the Learn panel by clicking on the 3 lines and choosing Close Panel, because we don't need it right now. To move panels in Premiere, just left-click on the panel's name, hold it, and drag it. This allows us to customize the layout whenever we want. If you ever want to return all panels to their default positions, click on Workspace and then choose Reset to saved layout. This brings everything back to the original layout. For different types of projects, we can use different workspaces. For example, Essential is a popular workspace. For editing clips, we usually choose the editing workspace. If we need to do color correction, we choose the color workspace where panels are arranged specifically for color grading. For this training course, I will use the editing workspace. You should choose the same one so we can move forward step by step together. Now let's get familiar with the main panels and understand what each one is used for. On the left side, we have the project panel. This is where all the files of our project are stored and managed. All videos, audio files, images, and sequences live here. Everything goes from this panel into the timeline, and we usually organize our files here before using them. Next is the timeline panel. This is where real editing happens. We place videos and audio here, cut them, move them, arrange them, and build the final structure of our video. Between these panels, we have the Small Tools panel. This is where the main editing tools are located. With these tools, we can cut, move, select, zoom, and generally work with clips in the timeline. At the top, we have the Program Monitor. This is the screen that shows us the final result of our edit. Any change we make in the timeline is immediately visible here. In this corner, we have the Source Monitor. This is used to preview clips before they enter the timeline. Here we watch our footage, set in and out points, and bring only the part we want into the timeline. Next to that is the Effect Controls panel. This is where we fine-tune every clip. Here we control effects, motion, scale, rotation, opacity, and audio settings in a professional and precise way. Alright guys, that's everything you needed to know for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Now let's import multiple files. There are several ways we can do this. We can click on Import Media and bring in the files we want. Or we can double-click on an empty area in the project panel and select our files again. Another way is to press Ctrl+I on the keyboard, which opens the import window so we can choose and import our files. You can click on any file you need and then hit Open. If you want to select multiple files at the same time, just left-click in an empty area, hold it, and drag. This way, you can select multiple files, and by clicking Open, all of them will be imported. As you can see, right now this window shows me all video, audio, and even Photoshop files. But we can use this tab to choose which type of files we want to see. For example, if we're only looking for Photoshop files, we can select Photoshop here. This way, only Photoshop files will be shown, making them easier to find and import. Or if you only need Illustrator files, you can select that option so only those files appear. I'll select all supported media again so I can see all the files. Now I'll select a few files. If I want to select another file as well, I can hold down Ctrl and, for example, select this audio file too. So by holding Ctrl, I've selected these 3 videos and this audio file. I'll click Open to import all the files. If I hover my mouse over any video, I can see a preview of it. Audio files in Premiere are shown with this icon. We can make the thumbnails much bigger or smaller. And we can also view the icons in different ways. To keep the project panel more organized, we can use folders. To create a folder, click on New Bin, and a new folder will be created. We can give the folder a name here. Now I'll drag all my video files into this folder to make the project panel cleaner and more organized. If you have a lot more audio or image files, you can create another new bin and place your audio files in there as well. If you double-click on the folder, you can see all the video files inside it. Also, since I double-clicked the video folder in the project panel, a new panel called Video Bin has been created and the files are shown there. You can click on these 3 lines and choose Close Panel to close it. If I double-click the folder again, I'll enter the Video Bin panel again. Let's go back to the project panel. I'll double-click on this empty area again. Sometimes we need to import Photoshop or Illustrator files into Premiere. For this, I'll click on the Photoshop file and press Open. This opens the Import Layer window. If I click OK here, Premiere will import everything as a single image, meaning all the Photoshop layers are merged together. I'll delete this image, double-click again. Select the Photoshop file and open it. Now I'll choose Merged Layers. In this mode, I can choose which Photoshop layers I need. I can select just the image or I can select the text as well. But if I click OK, it still imports everything as a single image based on the layers I selected. However, if I choose individual layers, I can select the layers I want and click OK. This way, a folder is created that contains all the Photoshop layers separately. I'll go back to the project panel. I'll delete this folder by pressing the Delete key on the keyboard. Then I'll double-click again and import the Photoshop file. The next option is Sequence, which works similarly to the previous option and lets us choose files. All the selected files are imported, and a sequence is also created in the project panel. I'll close them. I'll select all the folders and delete them. Finally, if I select the Photoshop file again, you'll notice there's another option here. If we choose document size, only the elements that are inside the Photoshop document canvas are imported. But if we choose layer size, all layers, both inside and outside the document canvas, will be imported. So, these were all the things you need to know about importing different types of files into Adobe Premiere Pro. After importing the project files into Premiere Pro, the next step is to create a sequence so we can place our files inside it. First, let me explain what a sequence is. A sequence is the main editing space. It's where we arrange videos, audio, and images on the timeline and build the final video. All the important settings, such as frame size and frame rate, are also defined inside the sequence. There are two ways to create a sequence. The first method is to go into the video folder, click and hold the left mouse button on one of the videos, and drag it into the timeline. This way, the video clip is added to the timeline, and a sequence is automatically created in the project panel. To help you better recognize the sequence among the other files, I'll change the view mode and make the icons a bit larger. This way, you can clearly see the sequence icon here. Notice that the sequence name and frame rate are the same as the video we placed in the timeline. You can see the sequence name and frame rate right here. If you want to close this sequence in the timeline, just click the X icon here and the sequence will close. To open it again, simply double-click on the sequence icon, and it will reopen in the timeline. Also, if you have many files in the project panel, images, audio, and other media, and you want to quickly find the sequence, just click on the clip in the timeline, then click on the three-line menu icon and choose Reveal Sequence in Project. This allows you to find the sequence instantly in the project panel. For now, I'll delete this sequence and go back to the main project panel. The second way to create a sequence is to click on the new item icon and then choose Sequence. This will open the new sequence window. You can also access this window in other ways. Go to the File menu, choose New, and then Sequence, or simply press Ctrl+N on the keyboard. In all cases, the same window will open. In this window, you can select ready-made sequence presets and click OK to create a sequence with those settings. For example, to create a full HD sequence, you can use these presets with different frame rates. If you want to create a 4K video, you can also use these 4K presets. However, in most cases, we go to the Settings tab so we can create a custom sequence with our own specifications. Editing mode in Premiere determines the standard used to build the sequence. This section defines basic settings such as frame rate, resolution, aspect ratio, and the timeline type, so your project starts with the correct settings and you don't run into problems later. In practice, we usually choose custom so we can manually set up the sequence. The next option is timebase or frame rate, which defines how many frames are shown per second. For film and video production, this is usually set to 24 or 30 frames per second. It's very important that the frame rate you choose here matches the frame rate of your original footage. For example, if I go back to my videos, open this folder, and make the clip icon smaller, you can see the frame rate of this video displayed here. It's 23.976 frames per second. So if I want to create a sequence for this video, I need to select exactly the same frame rate in the Settings tab. Frame size defines the resolution of the sequence. For example, 1920 by 1080 means the video will be created in full HD resolution. The next option, Pixel Aspect Ratio, defines the shape of the pixels, and it's usually set to square pixels. In the audio section, Sample Rate determines the audio quality. The standard value is 48,000 Hz. In the video preview section, the preview file format defines the format used to render timeline previews, and QuickTime is usually a good choice. You can also give your sequence a name here. After completing the settings, you can save this sequence as a preset. Just click on Save Preset and give it a name. For example, I'll name this preset 12 for this sequence. You can also add a description here, then click OK. From now on, you can always access this sequence and its settings in the Custom section. So I'll select this sequence and click OK. The sequence is now created, and I can drag my video into the timeline and easily start editing. I'll also add another video. If, during editing, you need to change the sequence settings, simply click on the sequence, go to the Sequence menu, choose Sequence Settings, apply any changes you need, and then click OK. Alright, these were all the important things you need to know about creating a sequence in Adobe Premiere Pro. I'll see you in the next lesson. Alright everyone, if we want to learn Adobe Premiere Pro professionally, before we fully dive into the timeline, we first need to understand the Source Monitor panel. The Source Monitor panel is used to preview raw footage and select the parts we want before they are placed into the timeline. The Source Monitor is located here. If you don't see this panel, you can go to the Window menu and click on Source Monitor to activate it. I'm going to select one of my videos. As you can see, this video has audio because it has the audio icon. But for example, video 2 is clearly silent and doesn't have an audio icon. So I'll select this video, hold down the left mouse button, and drag it into the Source Monitor panel. Now we can watch this video in the Source Monitor. One important point here is that most of the buttons in the Source Monitor are similar to those in the Program Monitor, and since I'm going to teach the Program Monitor in detail later, for now I'll only explain the most important parts of the Source Monitor. On the right side, you can see the total duration of the clip that we loaded into the Source Monitor. Remember, the first number always shows frames, then seconds, then minutes, and then hours. So this video is currently 21 seconds and 18 frames long. If I move the playhead, you can see the video, and wherever I stop, the time code on the left shows exactly which second and frame I'm on. Right now, I'm at 4 seconds and 6 frames. From here, I can also play the video. If I load another video into the Source Monitor, I won't be able to see the previous one anymore. To view the previous clip and switch between videos in the Source Monitor, click on the 3-line menu and easily switch between clips from here. In this panel, we can also separate audio and video if needed. To extract only the audio, I just hold down the left mouse button on this button, drag it to the timeline, and then release the mouse. This way, only the audio is added to the timeline, and the video is not included. I'll delete this audio. Using this button, I can also bring only the video without audio into the timeline. So I hold the left mouse button and drop it onto one of the video tracks in the timeline. This way, only the video is added. I'll delete this clip from the timeline as well. We can also select just a portion of a video and add that to the timeline. For this, we use the Mark In and Mark Out buttons with the shortcuts I and O. I want to cut the video here. I select this point as the start, move a little forward, and then click on the Mark Out button. This way, I've selected only this part of the video. Now, if I click on Insert, the selected section is cut and added to the timeline. The Overwrite button does a very similar job, but there's an important difference. I'll delete this clip as well. If I already have a video in the timeline and I select a section from another clip and click Insert, that section is added to the timeline and nothing from the existing video is removed. I'll press Ctrl+Z to go back. But if I do the same thing and click Overwrite, part of the existing video in the timeline will be replaced, and the selected clip will overwrite it. In other words, Overwrite does not change the overall timing, but Insert pushes the existing clips forward and adds the selected section. You can also move back to the marked section or move forward through the clip. By clicking on the camera icon, you can capture a still image if needed, choose a name for it, click OK, and save it. In this section, you can also choose the preview resolution. Keep in mind that this does not affect the final render resolution. It only changes how the video is displayed in the source monitor. I'll press Ctrl+Z to return to the previous state. That's everything you need to know about the source monitor panel. See you in the next video. Alright everyone, in this section we're going to take a look at the timeline panel together. The timeline is the most important part and the main structure of editing in Premiere Pro. It's the place where we arrange videos, audio, images, and effects over time to create the final video. In the previous sections, we added a few videos to the timeline, and by moving the playhead over them, we were able to see the video. We can also play from here and watch the videos together. If you look at the left side of the timeline, you can see 3 video tracks named V1, V2, and V3. For audio, we also have 3 tracks named A1, A2, and A3. Now I want to add one of these videos to the timeline. First, to deselect the part we previously selected, I right-click here and choose Clear In and Out so that the selected section is removed. Now I hold down the left mouse button here and drag this video into the timeline. As you can see, this video has both image and sound, and they are added to the timeline together. When we add this new video, since it is placed above the previous one, it means this new video is visible first. So we always see the clip that is on the upper track, and when it finishes, we move on to the next video. This means the video or image that is higher in the timeline is what we see in the program monitor. Also, if we have multiple audio clips on different tracks, all of the sounds are played together at the same time. Usually, we use V1 for the main video, and if we want to add text or a logo, we place them on V2 or V3. The main audio can be placed on A1, and other sounds like sound effects can be placed on the other audio tracks, which you can see here. Now, in this section, you can see these blue rectangles. On the left side, you see V1 written here. This means that if we add a clip from the source monitor, it will be added to track V1. Let me clear this and add the video to the timeline again, but this time using the Insert option. If I click Insert, since V1 is highlighted in blue, the video is added to track V1. Now I press Ctrl+Z to go back to the previous state. This time I activate V2, and for audio I also activate A2. If I click Insert again, you can see that the video is added to V2 and its audio is added to A2 in the timeline. I'll press Ctrl plus Z again to return to the previous state. I can also hold down the left mouse button and drag the video directly into the timeline. I can even drag the video into the timeline from this section as well. On the right side, we also have V1, V2, and V3. These blue rectangles show us exactly which track or clip our edits will be applied to. For example, if I have V2 enabled here and I want to do an edit or cut, I press Ctrl plus K on the keyboard. You can see that a cut is created here. Why was the cut created on this clip? Because we activated the video track, and since the audio tracks were already enabled and highlighted in blue, the cut was applied to the audio as well. Now, if I press Ctrl plus Z to go back and this time disable the video track and only activate V1, then press Ctrl plus K, you can see that the cut is applied only to the clip that is highlighted in blue. So the V1, V2, and V3 buttons on the left are used for adding clips from the source monitor, and the blue buttons on the right are used to control which tracks receive editing commands. I'll press Ctrl plus Z again to return to the previous state. Since I don't need this panel right now, I click on the three-line menu here and choose Close to close this panel. Now I add this video to my project again. Make sure that Snap is enabled and turned on here so when I add a clip next to another clip, it snaps and connects automatically like this. If I activate mute here and press play, the sound will not be heard, and the audio will be muted. But if we have multiple audio tracks and activate solo on one of them, only the sound of that specific track will be heard. If I move clips around in the timeline and place them on different tracks, I can lock each track individually to prevent it from being moved or deleted during editing. For example, if I lock this track, I can no longer move or delete it, while the other tracks can still be edited freely. The same thing can be done for audio tracks as well. There is also a blue line here that, when placed over the clips, allows us to preview the video in the program monitor. This blue line is called the playhead. The playhead shows us exactly where we are in time. When I move it, you can see the time changing here. For example, right now I'm at 36 seconds and 4 frames. As I explained in the previous lesson, the first 2 digits represent frames, the next 2 represent seconds, then minutes, and the last 2 represent hours. For example, if I want to make a precise cut at exactly 15 seconds, I just click here, type 15, and then add 2 zeros so the playhead moves exactly to 15 seconds. When I click here, you can see that the playhead is now exactly at 15 seconds. If I press Ctrl plus K, a cut is created at that precise point. Each of these clips can easily be moved, and we can also trim them. By grabbing the edge of a clip with the left mouse button, we can make it shorter or longer. Of course, we can't extend a clip beyond its original length. For example, if this video is 2 seconds long, you can't make it longer than 2 seconds, but you can shorten it as much as you want. I select this clip and delete it, then add another clip like this. Sometimes, when you add a video, a message appears saying that the clip settings don't match the sequence settings. In this case, just click Keep Existing Settings, and the video will play correctly. If I want to zoom in on the timeline, I can drag this control here to zoom in and out. I can also hold down the Alt key and use the mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out of the timeline. Additionally, I can use the plus and minus keys on the keyboard to zoom in or zoom out. To fit the timeline to the length of the clips, I can use the backslash key, and the timeline will zoom to fit all the clips. If I want to cut and remove a section of a clip, I place the playhead at the desired point and press the Q key to remove the part before the playhead. I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo. If I want to remove the part after the playhead, I place it at the correct position and press the W key to remove that section. For vertical zooming, I can also use this handle to make the video and audio tracks taller or shorter. This allows us to zoom vertically in the timeline. I press / again to fit the timeline to the clips. I'll make the tracks a bit smaller and return them to their original state. Alright everyone, these were all the essential points you need to know about the timeline panel. There are still many more details that we'll cover in the next lessons. I'll see you in the next video. Now that you're familiar with the main features of the timeline, let's briefly take a look at the program panel. First, you need to know that anything you do in the timeline panel will be reflected in the program panel. To play the video, I click the play button, and if I click it again, the video pauses. I can move the playhead either in the timeline or directly in the program panel. There's no difference between the two. In some situations, we need to see more details, so we have to zoom in on the image. To do this, first click on the program panel so the blue outline appears around it. Then press the tilde symbol key to maximize the panel and view the image at a larger size. Now we can click the play button and watch the video with more detail. I press the tilde key again to return to the normal view. In fact, if you click on any panel to select it and then press the tilde key, that panel will be maximized. You can also view the image in full screen using this option. And to exit full screen, simply press the escape key. In this section, you can choose the playback resolution. If your system is powerful, you can set it to full and watch the video at its original quality. If you're working on a weaker system, you can select 1/2 or 1/4 to get smoother playback. Also, if you click on the plus symbol button, you can see all the available buttons in the program panel. For example, I click and hold the Safe Margins button and drag it to this area. Now I release the left mouse button to add the Safe Margins option to the other tools, and then I click OK. I click on the Safe Margins option again to display the guidelines on the image. These are guidelines that show you the safe areas where text and important visual elements should be placed, so they are fully visible on all displays, especially on TVs, and don't get cut off. I click it again to disable it. You can also use the Step Forward button to move 1 frame forward. Each click moves you ahead by 1 frame, and with the Step Back button, you can go back 1 frame at a time. For now, don't worry too much about these buttons. Later, when I explain the editing tools in full detail, I'll come back to these controls and teach them properly. So far, you're doing great. Type 3000 so the total length of 3 clips becomes 30 seconds. I click and then trim this clip using the selection tool. Now I have 3 clips, and if I zoom in a bit, you can see that each clip is exactly 10 seconds long. The shortcut for the selection tool is V. If I click and hold on this tool, you'll see the Track Select Forward tool with the shortcut A. We use this tool to quickly select multiple clips at once. Wherever I click, all the clips after that point get selected. For example, if I click here, these 2 clips are selected. If I click here, all 3 clips are selected. Let me show you again. I switch back to the selection tool and click in an empty area so nothing is selected. Then I choose the Track Select Forward tool and click here, and all 3 clips are selected instantly. If I now click and drag, I can move all the selected clips together very easily. I press Ctrl+Z to undo and go back to the previous state. If I click and hold on the tool again, the next one is the Track Select Backward tool with the shortcut Shift+A. This works exactly opposite to the previous tool. When I select it and click at a point, it selects that clip and all the clips before it. For example, after deselecting everything, if I click here, this clip and all the previous clips are selected. The next tool is the Ripple Edit tool with the shortcut B. Using this tool, we can click and drag on an edit point to shorten or lengthen clips. As you can see, the clip becomes shorter or longer, and no gaps are created between clips. I press Ctrl+Z to undo. If I did the same thing with the selection tool, a gap would be created. But with the Ripple Edit tool, no gap is created after trimming. I undo again. The next tool is the Razor tool with the shortcut C. When it's selected, you just click on a clip to create a cut. It's that simple. I select the Razor tool again and, for example, click here. You can see the cut line, and with one left click, the cut is made. I press Ctrl+Z to return the clips to their original state. There's another tool here as well. If I click and hold, you'll see the Rolling Edit tool with the shortcut N. When I select it and drag an edit point, you'll notice that the cut moves, but the total duration of the timeline does not change. The timeline is still 30 seconds long. In this case, one clip becomes longer and the next clip becomes shorter. I undo to go back. Remember, with the Ripple Edit tool, when we did this, the total duration changed. If you look carefully, it showed 33 seconds. So the Ripple Edit tool changes the total timeline duration, while the Rolling Edit tool keeps the timeline length fixed. I undo again. The next tool is the Rate Stretch tool with the shortcut R. If I place it on a clip and make the clip much shorter from the edge, the speed of the clip increases a lot. I play it and you can see how fast it becomes. If I stretch it longer and play it again, the clip becomes much slower. So we use this tool to change the speed of a clip, making it faster or slower. If we stretch it a lot, the video plays very slowly. We'll talk about video speed in detail in future lessons. I undo to return the clip to its original state. There's also a tool here called the Slip tool. If I click and hold, you'll see it and its shortcut is Y. We use this tool to change the content inside a clip without changing the clip's position in the timeline. For example, I select this tool, place the playhead here, then click and drag on the clip. You'll see 4 images in the program monitor. The top left image shows the last frame of the previous clip, and the top right image shows the first frame of the next clip. The 2 larger images at the bottom show the content of the middle clip that I'm slipping. As you can see, the duration on the left and right remains the same, about 10 seconds. Even when I drag, the clip is still around 10 seconds long, but the content inside the clip changes. Remember, the original video was much longer. By holding the left mouse button and dragging, I'm changing which part of that video appears inside this fixed 10-second clip. The start and end frames change, but the clip's position and duration stay the same. This way, we can change the content of a clip without moving it in the timeline. If I click and hold again, you'll see the slide tool with the shortcut U. When I select it and drag, the entire clip moves left or right. When I release the mouse, the previous clip becomes shorter and the next clip also adjusts, but the middle clip itself does not change in duration. So we can change the position of clips in the timeline without changing the total timeline length. The length of the middle clip stays the same, and only the end of the previous clip and the beginning of the next clip change. Make sure to practice all these tools thoroughly so you can really master them. There are two very simple tools here as well. The hand tool lets you move around the timeline easily, and the zoom tool lets you zoom in on the timeline by clicking. If you hold Alt, it zooms out and makes the timeline smaller. The remaining tools, which are related to creating text and shapes, will be covered in detail in future lessons. If you've made it this far, you're doing a great job. Keep going and continue the lessons to fully master Premiere. I'll see you in the next video. In the previous lessons, you became familiar with different cutting tools. For example, we talked about the razor tool. Whenever we select it and click on a clip, it creates a cut like this. We can also create a cut by placing the playhead on a clip and pressing Ctrl+K on the keyboard. Each time I press Ctrl+K, a cut is created at the playhead position. I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo and go back to the previous state. In earlier lessons, I also mentioned that whenever we place the playhead at a specific point and press the Q key, everything before the playhead gets removed. I'll press Ctrl+Z again. Likewise, if you place the playhead at the desired point and press the W key, everything after the playhead will be removed. Just keep in mind that this only affects the clip where the playhead is positioned. Now, besides all these cutting methods, sometimes we need to remove a middle section of a clip. For example, if I want to select and delete a specific part of this clip, I can use Mark In and Mark Out. I can click on the Mark In button or press the I key on the keyboard. This sets the starting point. Then I move the playhead to where I want the deletion to end and click Mark Out. Or press the O key on the keyboard. This way, I've selected a portion of the clip which is highlighted. To remove this selected part, I can use the Lift button located in the program monitor. I click Lift, and the selected section is removed, leaving an empty gap in the timeline. To close this gap and connect the following clips, I simply right-click on the empty space and choose Ripple Delete. This removes the gap and automatically moves the clips forward. I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo. This time, instead of Lift, I want to use Extract. After selecting the same section, I click the Extract button. Now the selected part is removed, and the clips after it automatically snap back and connect to the previous clips. So the difference between Lift and Extract is that Extract removes the selected section and closes the gap, while Lift removes the selected section but leaves an empty space in the timeline. I'll press Ctrl+Z again to return to the previous state. I can also adjust the selected area using the selection tool. I can move it, expand it to include more footage, or make it smaller like this. To clear the selection, I right-click in the timeline and choose Clear In and Out, and the selected area is removed. This time, instead of using the buttons, I'll use the I and O keys on the keyboard to set my in and out points again. To move the playhead between these points, I can use Go to In to jump to the in point, or Go to Out to jump to the end of the selected range. I'll right-click again and choose Clear In and Out to remove the selection. Sometimes we need to add markers. For example, if I want to add text later at this point, I can place a marker here so I can easily come back to it. I position the playhead and click the marker button. I can move the playhead to another position and click the marker button again to add another marker. If you double-click on a marker, the marker dialog opens. Here you can give the marker a name, add notes, and change its color. For example, I'll choose red, enter a name, and click OK. As you can see, the marker color changes. If I hover over the marker, hold down the Alt key, and drag with the left mouse button, I can extend the marker and turn it into a range marker, covering a larger area of the timeline. To delete markers, I can right-click on a marker and choose Clear Markers to remove all markers. To jump to the next marker, I can click Go to Next Marker, and the playhead moves to the next marker position. If I right-click on a specific marker and choose Clear Selected Marker, only that marker will be deleted. If I choose Clear Markers, all markers in the timeline will be removed. In some cases, we may need to capture a still image from the timeline. To do this, I place the playhead at the desired frame and click Export Frame. Here, I can name the image, choose the file format, and save it to my computer. If I enable Import into Project, and then click OK, the image is saved to my system and also imported directly into the project panel. From there, I can drag it into the timeline if I want. I'll select it and delete it for now. We can also combine multiple clips, including audio, into a single nested clip. To do this, I select all the clips, right-click, and choose Nest. I give the nest a name and click OK. Now, all the clips are combined into one, which helps keep the timeline clean and organized. This nested clip also appears as a sequence in the project panel. If I double-click on it, I can see all the original clips inside. From there, I can return to the main sequence at any time. Great job making it this far. I'll see you in the next video. In this section, we're going to add transitions to our clips. We use transitions to create a smooth connection between two shots. If I place the playhead right here, you can see that the video jumps from one scene or one location to another. Let me turn off snap here so the playhead doesn't automatically snap to the end of the clip. As you can see, this cut from one image to the next happens very fast and feels a bit harsh. We want to make this transition smoother by using transitions. To make things faster, I'm going to trim the clips a little. I'll shorten them to about 4 seconds. Right now, I'm at 4 seconds and 4 frames. I can use the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard to move the playhead backward and forward frame by frame. Now I'm exactly at 4 seconds and I trim the clip here. I turn snap back on so the playhead snaps to the end of the clip again. Then I come to this clip and trim it as well, setting it to around 8 seconds, and I set the next clip to 4 seconds too. Three clips at 4 seconds each makes 12 seconds, so now I have 12 seconds of clips in my timeline. Now, to add a transition, I click here so I can see all the panels. From here, I select the Effects panel. If you don't see the Effects panel, you can always go to the Window menu and choose Effects from there. I open the Video Transitions folder. If you look closely, you'll see several different folders for transitions, and each one contains various transitions you can use. One of the most popular transitions is cross dissolve, which is widely used in films and many different projects. To apply it to my clips, I left-click on the transition, hold the mouse button, and drag it to the cut point or to the end of a clip, then release it. Let me zoom in a bit on the timeline so you can see it more clearly. When I click on the transition, it's easier to see it here. Now if I play this section, you can see that the transition from one clip to the next is much smoother. I can drag the same transition again and place it on the next cut. Also, if I keep holding the left mouse button, I can drop the transition at the end of this clip at the beginning of the next clip, or place it right in the middle of the cut. I play it again and you can see we get a very smooth transition. You can also click on any transition and, from the Effect Controls panel, change the duration of the transition. For example, I can increase the duration, or I can reduce it from here. I can also decide exactly where the transition is positioned. I can set it to be centered on the cut, placed at the start of the clip, or placed at the end of the clip. You can also adjust it manually by clicking and dragging it directly on the timeline. If you want to quickly make a transition longer or shorter, just click on the edge of the transition, hold the left mouse button, and drag it inward or outward to resize it. To remove a transition, simply click on it and press the Delete key on the keyboard, or right-click on it and choose Clear. This way, you can easily remove any transition. Now, if you have a lot of clips in your timeline and you want to add transitions to all the cuts very quickly, just select all the clips and press Shift+D on the keyboard. As you can see, the default transition is applied to all the cuts. If I move to the beginning and play, you can see how the transitions were added using Shift+D, and you'll also notice that a transition has been applied at the end as well. If you want to change the default transition, simply right-click on the transition you want and choose Set Selected as Default Transition. From that point on, whenever you press Shift+D, that transition will be applied to all the cuts instead of the previous default one. You can also use other transitions from here. For example, I select this transition, hold the left mouse button, and drop it here. Now if I play it, you can see that a different type of transition has been added. As I mentioned in the first lesson, you can go to the Edit menu, then Preferences, and choose Timeline to change the default transition duration. Right now, it's set to 1 second. You can make it shorter or longer, or you can even change it based on frames instead of seconds. You might be wondering when you should actually use transitions. Transitions are useful whenever you have a time jump, like moving from the present to the future or the past, or when you're moving from one location to another. You can also use transitions at the beginning or the end of sequences. Alright guys, you can explore the rest of the transitions on your own by opening the folders and trying them out. Experiment with them to get comfortable and familiar with different transitions. I'll see you in the next video. After adding transitions to our clips, we can now add some text to them as well. There are two main ways to add text in Premiere Pro. The first method is to select the type tool from here. Left-click and hold on it. You can write text horizontally or vertically. I'll choose the horizontal type. Then I move the playhead to the point where I want the text to start on the clip, and I click on the image in the program monitor. As soon as I do that, a red text box is created. I can type any text I want here. To delete the text, just select its text layer in the timeline and press the delete key. The second way to create text is by clicking on the Create New Graphic button. Here you have several options. You can create text, and you can also create different shapes, which we'll cover in future lessons. For now, I'll click on Text. This immediately creates a new text layer. I can double-click on it, select all the text, and type my own text here or paste text if I want. In the Properties panel, I can also see this text layer. All text-related settings are available in the Properties panel. These exact same settings are also available in the Effect Controls panel under the Text section if I expand it, and there is no difference between them. However, since I haven't taught the Effect Controls panel yet, I'll use the Properties panel for now. After creating the text, I can select it using the Selection tool and move it anywhere I want on the screen. I can also make the text much larger or smaller and change the font from here. To place the text exactly in the center, I go to the Align section and choose Center Alignment. This places the text perfectly in the middle of the frame. In the Align and Transform section, I can reduce or increase the opacity of the text. I can also rotate it slightly or change its scale like this. I press Ctrl+Z to go back to the previous state, or I can change its position using the Position option. Again, I press Ctrl+Z to bring the text back to the exact center. If I want to reset all settings to their default values, I can simply click the Reset button here. If I need to change the text color, I can use the Fill option, which is currently active, and choose a color such as red or any other color. I can also add a stroke to the text. I enable stroke, then increase or decrease its thickness from here, and choose whether the stroke is inside, centered, or outside. You can adjust these options as needed. For now, I'll disable the stroke. You can also add a background to your text. You can make the background larger, change its color, round the corners, and increase or decrease its padding using these controls. You can use these tools however you like. You can also add a shadow to the text. You can increase the shadow amount, choose the shadow color from here, set the distance, adjust the softness, and make it larger or smaller, along with other settings that you can fine-tune yourself. For now, I'll disable the shadow. In the text settings, you can choose bold or other styles if they are available. You can make all the text uppercase like this, and apply any other changes you need from here. You can align the text left, right, or center, and choose whether to type from left to right or right to left. You can also adjust letter spacing here. And if you have multi-line text, you can control the line spacing as well. There are many other options you can explore here to see how they affect your text. Now I'll take this text and place it at the beginning of the clip. To make the text duration match the clip, I shorten it from here. I turn on snap so it snaps exactly to my cut point, and the text becomes the same length as the clip. To duplicate the text, I can hold down the Alt key and drag it like this. This creates a copy of the text. Now I can easily select the new text and replace it with another one. Just make sure that if you want to change the text, you first select it, then double-click on it in the program monitor, select the text, and type your new content here. After that, I can center it again to make sure it's perfectly aligned. You can also use the Alt key in the same way to duplicate clips. So now I have one text for this clip, and the previous text is still there as well. For the next clip, I repeat the exact same process. I hold Alt, drag, and release it here. Then I select it, type my new text, and center it again to be sure. Now, if I press play, you can see that the text has been added to our clips like this. In the next lessons, we'll cover how to animate text. In this section, we're going to learn how to create shapes directly on a video. In Premiere Pro, creating shapes works almost exactly the same way as creating text, and there are two main methods to do it. The first method is using the Shape tools from the Tools panel. If I click and hold the rectangle tool, you'll see that different shape tools are available here. You can choose any of them. For example, I can select the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle like this. I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo. Or I can click here again, choose the ellipse tool, and place the playhead anywhere I want so the shape starts appearing from that point in time. Then, by clicking and dragging with the left mouse button, I can draw a shape. If I click and drag while holding Shift, I'll get a perfect circle. If I don't hold Shift and just drag freely, the shape will be drawn proportionally based on how I move the mouse. Any shape you create will automatically generate a corresponding layer in the timeline. Since I've created two shapes here, if I select them using the Selection tool, you'll see that in the Properties panel, two separate shapes are listed. When I select any one of them, I can apply changes specifically to that shape. For example, I can change its fill color and make it red. Then scroll down and adjust its size, making it smaller or larger. All the same settings we had for text, which I explained in the previous lesson, are also available for shapes. For instance, I can use the Align options to place the shape perfectly in the center. I can also add a stroke to the shape, choose a stroke color from here, and increase the stroke thickness. Now, since the shape layer is selected in the timeline, if I create another shape, like a polygon, it will be added to the same layer. Again, you can select each shape individually and apply changes. So all of these shapes exist within one single layer. However, if I press Ctrl+Z, deselect the shape layer, move the playhead to a different position, and then draw a new shape, you'll see that a completely new layer is created in the timeline. So the rule is simple. If a shape layer is selected and you draw a new shape in the program monitor, that shape is added to the same layer. But if no shape layer is selected and you draw a shape, Premiere Pro creates a new layer for it. Whenever you select a shape layer, you can adjust all of its settings either from the Properties panel or from the Effect Controls panel. There's no difference in terms of functionality. As you can see, the shape layers you created also appear here, and you can modify them from this panel as well. You can also select any shape and use the duplicate option to create a copy of it. If I switch to the selection tool, you'll see that a duplicate is created. If I right-click again, this time I can choose Clear to remove that shape. You can also copy an entire shape layer, and if you create another shape layer afterward, you can right-click on it and choose Paste to paste the copied shape into this new layer. This way, you can easily reuse and copy shapes between layers. I'll press Ctrl+Z and delete this layer as well. The second way to create shapes on your video is by adding them inside an existing text layer. For example, if I already have a text layer, I can select it, and in the Properties panel, you'll see the text layer listed here. I can add another element to this same layer. For instance, I click on New Layer, then choose the Ellipse tool. This allows me to create a shape inside the same text layer. No new layer is created in the timeline. Everything stays within this one text layer. So I click on the Ellipse option, and a shape is created inside the text layer. I can select the shape layer from here, and I can even rename it if I want. Now we have one text layer and one shape layer inside it. I notice that the shape was created as an ellipse. If I want it to be a perfect circle, I can go to the Align and Transform section and make the width and height equal. Since the width is 300, I'll set the height to 300 as well. This way, I get a perfect circle. Now I select the shape layer again and resize it. If I drag from a corner while holding Shift, I can scale the circle down without distorting it. This size looks good to me, so I'll position it right here. I'll set the fill color to white. Then I select the same shape layer again, right-click, choose Copy. Then right-click and choose Paste to create another identical circle. I'll move this new one upward a bit. I'll undo once because I want to move the lower circle instead. I'll hide the upper shape temporarily, select the lower one, and move it slightly upward. To see things more clearly, I'll zoom in a bit. You can zoom in and out using the scroll wheel, and by holding the scroll wheel, you can pan around the scene. Now I select this circle and place it here. Then I select the upper circle, make its color slightly darker, and position it like this. That looks pretty good. To see the full frame again, I'll choose Fit from the View options. Now we've successfully created and combined these shapes. If I press play, you can see that the text and shapes appear together. And then the next text shows up afterward. If you want, you can also adjust the opacity or visibility of your text or shapes from the transform section. As I mentioned before, all of these options were fully explained in the lesson about text. In the next lesson, we'll take a closer look at the Effect Controls panel and start animating text and shapes. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you in the next video. Now that you've learned all of these basics, it's time to move on to the Effect Controls panel. The Effect Controls panel is where we adjust, edit, and animate the properties of any clip that we have selected in the timeline. For example, if I select a video clip, a set of controls will appear in the Effect Controls panel. If I select a text layer instead, you'll see a different set of details. The overall structure of the panel stays the same, but the specific settings change depending on what type of element you've selected. The same thing happens if you select a transition. The Effect Controls panel will change accordingly, and we already talked about transitions in previous lessons. For now, I'm going to select my text from the timeline. On the left side, in the Effect Controls panel, I'll open the Vector Motion section. If you don't see the Effect Controls panel, you can simply go to the Window menu and enable Effect Controls from there. The first parameter here is Position. Using this, you can move the selected text or clip horizontally and vertically. You can also animate this movement if you want. If you ever want to return the element to its original position, just click the Reset button and it will snap back to where it started. Next is Scale. By increasing or decreasing this value, you can make your text or clip larger or smaller. I'll reset it back to the default. If I disable Uniform Scale, I can scale the element independently on the horizontal and vertical axes. You can see that I can stretch it vertically or make it wider or narrower horizontally. I'll click Reset again to bring it back to normal. Most of the time, we keep Uniform Scale enabled so that scaling happens evenly in both directions. After that, we have Rotation, which lets us rotate the selected text or clip. I'll reset that as well. The next parameter is Anchor Point. When you click on it, you'll see the center point of the selected element. We can move this anchor point anywhere we want, and all transformations like rotation and scale will happen around this point. Right now, you can see that rotation happens from the center. But if I want the rotation to happen from a different spot, I just move the anchor point there and then adjust the rotation again. This time, the rotation happens around that new point. The same idea applies to scaling. If the anchor point is in a corner, scaling will happen from that corner. If I want to put the anchor point back in its original center position, I can simply click the Reset button for the parameter or reset vector motion entirely, and everything will return to its default state. You can also manually adjust the anchor point using these values. Keep in mind that when you hover over the anchor point, the mouse cursor changes slightly. This lets you know that you can select it and move it. As you've seen, any changes we apply in vector motion affect both the shape and the text together. However, we can also apply changes separately. For example, I can apply transformations only to the text. You can see the text layer listed here. When I click on it, it becomes highlighted in the program monitor with a blue outline. I can open this section and make changes just to the text. For instance, I can adjust the scale here or move it using the position controls. I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo. I can also change the opacity of the text. Again, Ctrl+Z to undo. I can apply these changes specifically to the text layer, or I can change its color from here as well. I'll undo that too. If we want to make changes to any of the shapes, we can open that specific shape layer and apply our adjustments there. I'll undo once more. You can actually do the exact same thing in the Properties panel. By selecting any layer, you can adjust its settings from there as well. I'll close this section for now. One important thing to remember is that we can animate each of these elements separately. For example, let's create a scale animation for the text. First, I'll move the playhead to the beginning. I'll select this transition for now, right-click on it, and choose Clear to remove it. Then I'll select the text again. I'll click on the toggle animation icon next to Scale, the little stopwatch, to create a keyframe. If I zoom in a bit, you can see this keyframe more clearly. The keyframe is now created. I'll move the playhead forward a little. It doesn't matter whether you move the playhead here in the Effect Controls panel or directly in the timeline. I'll move forward slightly and create another keyframe. Now I'll go back to the beginning of the clip and set the scale value to 60. So the text becomes smaller. If I play this back, you'll see that the text gradually scales up. If I increase the distance between the keyframes, let me select one and move it further, the animation becomes slower. I'll play it again so you can see the difference. So this is how easily you can create animations for any parameter available in the Effect Controls panel. For now, I'll select the keyframes and delete them. To disable animation completely, I can click the stopwatch again. When the stopwatch is active, it turns blue. When you turn it off, it goes back to its default state. I'll close this section for now. If you click on any of these layers, you can also toggle their visibility on or off from here. In the opacity section, if I open it, you'll see several shape tools. These are used for masking different elements in the timeline, and we'll cover masks in a separate lesson. Here, we can also increase or decrease the opacity of the text, and we can animate opacity as well. You'll also see blend mode here, which is used to blend layers together. For example, if I change the blend mode from normal to something like darken, you'll see how the text colors blend with the video underneath. You can try different blend modes and see how each one gives you a different result. I'll switch it back to normal. We also have time remapping here, which is used to change the speed of a video. We'll cover that in detail in a separate lesson. If you select a video clip, you'll see many of these same settings available for it as well. However, video clips also have additional options like crop left, crop top, and so on, which let you crop the image from all four sides. For example, I'll select this clip, and from the left side I can crop the image like this. I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo. To make this clearer, I'll first select the text layers and move them forward in time. Then I'll place this clip on top of the previous one. Now, the clip on the upper track is what I see in the program monitor. I want this top video to gradually disappear from the left side so the video underneath becomes visible. So I'll move the playhead to this point. On crop left, I'll click the stopwatch to create a keyframe. Then I'll move the playhead forward and create another keyframe. At this final frame, I'll increase the crop left value all the way. Now if I play this back, you'll see that the top image slowly wipes away from the left, revealing the clip underneath. You can do this kind of animation with all of these parameters. If I click the stopwatch again, the animation is removed. You can control keyframes from here at the top or from the bottom, both ways work. And using this approach, you can create many different effects. Any changes we make in the motion section apply to the clip that is currently selected. We can move it, scale it, rotate it, and adjust all of these settings from the Effect Controls panel. I'll press Ctrl+Z to return everything to its original state. These are all the essential things you need to know about the Effect Controls panel at this stage. If you've been following the lessons up to this point, I'm sure you've made a lot of progress in Adobe Premiere Pro. Great job, and I'll definitely see you in the next video. One of the most important steps in any editing project is exporting the final output. This is the moment when all your hard work turns into a file that you can publish and share. In this lesson, we are going to learn in a complete and practical way how to export our projects from Adobe Premiere Pro. Sometimes, before taking the final export, we need to make sure that our transitions and effects are working properly. For example, in this part of the video there is a transition, and in many cases transitions and effects do not play correctly in real-time preview. That's completely normal, especially on heavier projects. For this, we can select all or just a part of the video and render it to see the correct performance before the final export. I press the I key on the keyboard to set the in point, which defines the start of the section, and then I go to the end of the Part 1 need and press the O key to set the out point. Now this specific section is selected. Then I open the sequence menu and choose to render this part. I click on Render Into Out and wait a little. Premiere will render that section and show me the real performance of the transition or the selected part. You can see that a green line appears above the timeline, which means this part is now rendered and will play smoothly and accurately. Also in the sequence menu, I can use Render Effects In to Out. This option renders only the effects and transitions that exist inside my selected area. For example, if I select these transitions and then click on Render Effects Into Out, Premiere will render all the effects and transitions in that section and show me their correct behavior in the timeline. Now that everything looks good, I select the area I want, and to take the final export, I click on the Export button here. We can also open the export window by pressing Ctrl+M on the keyboard. In the Range section, we can choose whether we want to export only the selected part of the timeline or the whole project. If I choose Source and /out, only the part between my in and out points will be exported. But if I want to export the entire project that exists in the timeline, I choose Entire Source. It is very important that the sequence size and the export size match each other. We will pay attention to that in a moment. At the bottom, Premiere shows us the final video size after export. In the file name box, we can choose a name for our file. After typing the name, I click here to see the file format as well. In the Location section, we choose where the file will be saved and then click Save. In the Preset section, we can choose the final quality of our video. For example, if our video is Full HD, we can choose High Quality 1080p. Or based on our sequence size, we can choose the appropriate preset. For HD, 4K, and other formats, we can use these ready-made presets. There are also special presets made for YouTube, including Full HD resolution, which are very useful. If I click on More Presets, I can access all the presets available in Premiere and choose the one I want. After choosing a preset, I can click OK. For now, I won't select any preset and I'll click Cancel. Now we choose the format. The main and most common format for videos is H.264, which is the same as MP4, and this is what we usually use. If we want to create a GIF, we can use a GIF format from here. If we scroll down, we also see audio-only formats like WAV or MP3. These are used only for projects that contain audio and no video. In that case, we can use these formats. If we want to export our project as image sequences, we can choose formats like PNG. For this video, I choose H.264 or MP4. Make sure that video and audio are both enabled. If they are disabled, they will not be rendered. If your video has effects, make sure effects are enabled as well. And if your project has captions, you must enable captions too. In my case, this video does not have captions, so this option is not active. Now I open the Video tab. If your sequence size is Full HD and you selected a 1080 preset for export, but they don't match, you can click on Match Source. This will make the export settings match your sequence settings automatically. You can also manually change the resolution here if you want. For maximum quality, always enable Use Maximum Render Quality. You can also enable Render at Maximum Depth. This renders the video with higher color depth, but it increases the final file size. We usually use this option when the project is color-heavy and we have used a lot of color effects. If needed, you can enable it. A little lower, in the Performance section, make sure Hardware Encoding is selected. This uses your GPU and makes the export much faster. In the Bitrate Settings section, we define the bitrate. Bitrate shows how much information is stored per second in the video. In most projects, I use VBR 1pass. The higher the bitrate, the higher the quality and also the larger the file size. The lower the bitrate, the lower the quality and the smaller the file size. For Full HD videos, a very good bitrate range is between 8 and 12. I usually set it to 12 for most of my videos. This gives excellent quality without making the file too large. If your video is 2K, you should set the bitrate between 16 and 24. If your video is 4K, you should set it between 35 and 45. In the Audio tab, the format should be AAC, and the bitrate of 320 is perfect. You don't need to change anything else for audio in most cases. Finally, all you have to do is click on Export, and your final render will start. That's everything you need to know about exporting in Adobe Premiere Pro. I'll see you in the next video. In this lesson, we're going to add effects to our clips. In general, we use effects to enhance or correct both image and sound. So I'll quickly go to the Effects panel and open the Video Effects folder. When we open this folder, you can see that video effects themselves are divided into different categories. Effects for color correction, effects for creating blur or sharpening, effects for noise reduction, effects for green screen removal, and many other types of effects that are available here. Inside each folder, there are many different effects. Of course, in this course we won't be able to cover every single effect, but we will focus on the most important and most practical ones. In this lesson, I want to teach you the blur effects. You can find the blur effects inside the Blur and Sharpen folder. We use blur effects to reduce image details and create softness or a blurred look. The first effect we're going to use is Gaussian blur. I just need to select it, hold down the left mouse button, and drag it onto my video clip. Now, in the Effect Controls panel, the Gaussian blur effect has been added to this clip, and I can start adjusting its settings. From here, I can increase the blurriness value. As you can see, the video becomes very blurred. I can also open this section and move the slider to increase the blur, or reduce it to make the effect more subtle. If I increase the blur a lot, I can use the Blur Dimensions option to choose whether the blur is applied horizontally, vertically, or both. Right now, it's set to both. I can switch it to horizontal only to apply the blur in that direction, or choose vertical only to get a vertical blur. This gives us more creative control over how the blur looks. Make sure that the Repeat Edge Pixels option stays enabled. This is very important because it preserves the edges of the image. If I turn it off, you'll see that the blur spreads into the edges and creates unwanted transparency or artifacts, which is not what we want. So always keep this option enabled. I'll leave the blur dimensions set to both horizontal and vertical. If I want to temporarily hide the effect, I can click on the FX icon to disable it, and if I click again, the effect will be enabled. I can also reset all the settings back to their default by clicking on the Reset button. But one of the most important uses of this effect is that we can animate the blur. For example, I place the playhead at the beginning of the clip, and from here I create a keyframe for blurriness by clicking on Toggle Animation. As soon as we create the first keyframe, it means our animation will start from this point. Now I move the playhead a little forward, either from here or directly in the timeline, and I create another keyframe. Now we have two keyframes. By holding the Shift key, the playhead will snap exactly to each keyframe. We can also move between keyframes using these arrow buttons. Now I go back to the first keyframe and increase the blur value. Notice that the effect graph also changes here. When I play the clip, you can see that the blur gradually decreases over time. Let me play it again. You can clearly see the blur effect fading smoothly. If I increase the distance between the keyframes, the animation will take more time. When I play it again, the transition becomes slower and smoother. This is how we can create a very nice and professional-looking blur animation for our videos. Another very useful thing is that once we create an effect, we don't need to rebuild it for every clip. We can simply copy and paste it. For example, I click on this effect, right-click and choose Copy. Then I select another clip, right-click on it and choose Paste. Now exactly the same effect with the same animation is applied to this clip as well. If I play it, you can see that the first clip has the effect, and the next clip also has the same blur animation applied. To remove an effect, just select the effect, right-click, and choose Clear, and it will be removed. I can do the same for the next clip if I want to remove it there as well. If needed, I can also choose Rename and give this effect a new name. Another great feature is that I can save this effect as a preset. If I right-click on the effect and choose Save Preset, a window opens where I can give it a name. Premiere automatically suggests a default name, and I can also write a description if I want. Usually, there's no need to change much here. I just click OK, and the preset is saved. Now, whenever I want to use this effect again, I can go to the Presets section and find the preset I created. I simply select it and drag it onto any clip I want, and the exact same effect with the same animation is applied instantly. To delete a saved preset, I just right-click on it and choose Delete, and it will be removed. Now I'll select this effect again and choose Clear to remove it, and I'll do the same for this clip. There are other useful effects inside the Blur and Sharpen folder as well. For example, I can choose Camera Blur and drag it onto my video. You can see that it immediately blurs the clip. From here, I can increase or decrease the blur amount, and just like before, I can animate it using keyframes. I'll remove this effect as well. Another blur effect is directional blur. I can apply it to the video and control both the direction and the length of the blur to create a motion-like blur effect. And exactly like the previous effects, I can animate it using keyframes in the same way. But these effects are not limited to videos only. We can also use them on text and shapes. Let me remove this effect first. For example, I can select a text layer, apply Gaussian blur to it, and increase the blur value. As you can see, the same effect works perfectly on text. There is no difference at all. You can use these blur effects on any visual layer very easily. I'll remove this effect as well. And that's everything you need to know about blur effects, which are extremely important and very practical in real projects. I'll see you in the next lesson. In this project, we're going to learn how to remove the background from a clip using the Ultra Key effect. First, I add a video to my previous project, and it's important that this video is placed on the top layer. Now I click on the play button. As you can see, when the window opens in this shot, there's a green color in the background. So what we're going to do now is use the Ultra Key effect to remove this green background. So after the window opens, the video underneath becomes visible. To do that, I first go to the Effects panel and open the Keying folder. Inside the Keying folder, I add the Ultra Key effect to the video. I just click and hold the left mouse button and drag it onto the clip. For easier access, you can also just type Ultra Key in the search box to find it faster. After adding the effect to the video, its settings appear in the Effect Controls panel. Now all you need to do is click on the eyedropper tool, and then click on the green color. This will remove that color for you. This way, we can very quickly remove a single color from the background. Now if I hit play again, you can see the final result. I'll unmute the audio so we can hear the sounds as well. And now I press play.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story. The wind, the birds, and distant footsteps. Nature speaks without words, and balance is the key to survival.
This is a simple tutorial on this effect for beginners. See you in the next video. Removing the background from a video isn't always easy. In some projects, like this one, you can see that the lighting isn't done very well and there are shadows in some areas. Because of that, removing the green color can be a bit tricky. In projects like this, it's better to first remove the areas where the subject isn't present by using a mask. To do this, I select the video and open the opacity section in the Effect Controls panel. I choose the Draw option to create a mask and start placing points to separate these areas. I zoom in with the scroll wheel and move around to place the points more accurately. After I connect the last point, you can see that the background is removed in the areas we don't need. I set the view back to fit. Now we only need to remove the green color from these parts. We can also slightly adjust the mask points using the selection tool. Now it's time to add the Ultra Key effect to the project. From the Effects panel, I open Video Effects. Then the Keying folder, add the Ultra Key effect to the clip, and close the opacity section. Using the eyedropper, I click on the darker green color. You can see that in some areas the background is removed, but in other areas it's still visible. To better understand which parts are removed and which aren't, it's best to change the output option to alpha channel. Here, the subject that we want to keep should be white, and the background that we want to remove should be completely black. To fix this, I open the matte generation section and make some adjustments to these parameters. First, I reduce the highlight value and set it to 0 or slightly higher. Then I slightly adjust the pedestal so the background becomes completely black. As you can see, the subject is now fully white and the background is fully black, which means everything is working correctly. If I switch back to composite, we can see the subject clearly separated from the background. Now we can place any background, either an image or a video, under this clip and use it as the new background. To do that, I go back to my project and choose a color instead of a background image. From New Item, I select Color Matte and click OK. I choose a color to use as the background, give it a name if I want, and click OK again. Then I place the color matte on video track 1 and put the subject on video track 2 above it. I extend the color matte to match the length of the video. Now when I press play, you can see that the background has been removed nicely and only the subject remains. Now, if I want, I can double-click on the color matte layer and change the background color. Then I play it again. This way, you can remove the background from videos even if the lighting isn't perfect. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you in the next video. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to quickly and professionally create animated subtitles in Premiere Pro for our videos, just like the ones you see on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. We'll start by converting audio to text, then we'll turn that text into editable captions, and finally we'll use scale animation, keyframes, and easing to give our subtitles a dynamic and attractive feel. First, I import my video into the timeline so Premiere automatically creates a sequence from it. Now we need to extract the text from the audio of the video. For that, I select my video, then I go to the text panel. If you don't see this panel, you can activate it from the window menu by choosing text. Inside the text panel, I go to the transcript section. As you can see, Premiere very quickly generates the transcript for me. Sometimes you need to click on the blue transcribe button that appears here to start the process, but in this case it was done automatically and the text showed up right away. If I press play, you can see the words being highlighted in sync with the video.
Life is not about perfection. It's about growing, learning, and moving forward. One small step at a time.
Now notice these 3 dots at the beginning and at the end. These represent silent parts in the audio. If I click on one of them, Premiere shows me the silent section of the clip. The same thing happens if I click on the dots at the beginning. To remove these silences, I can right-click on the dots and choose Delete. When I use this option, both the video and the audio for that silent part are removed. For now, I'll press Ctrl+Z to undo and go back to the previous state. If you have a long video with lots of silences, you can use the Filters section here and choose Pauses. This will show you all the silent parts at once, and then you can select them and click Delete All to remove everything in one step. But since my video is short and I want a little bit of silence at the beginning and the end, I don't need to do that right now. I can also right-click on a specific pause and choose Clear In and Out to remove just that part. Now, to put this text onto the video as subtitles, I can simply click on the CC button, or I can go to the Captions section and choose Create Captions from Transcript. When I click that, the Create Captions window opens. Here I can adjust the settings. In this part, I can control the number of characters per caption. Even after this, I can still resize the text directly on the video. For example, I can set this to around 10 or 11 characters. I reduce the duration to the end, and I set it to single so each caption is shown as a single line. Then I click on Create Captions. We wait a moment, and very quickly Premiere places all the captions on the video. If I press play, you can see the subtitles appearing perfectly.
Life is not about perfection. It's about growing, learning, and moving forward.
If I select the video and press the tilde key, the video becomes full screen so I can see it better. I press play again and you can see the subtitles clearly.
One small step at a time.
I press tilde again to go back to the normal view. Now I can easily change the font. Let me zoom in a little. I select all of the captions, go to the Properties panel, and from there I can change the font. I choose a different font for them. I can make all the subtitles bigger or smaller. I can align them left, right, or center. One important thing here is that I can choose exactly where the subtitles appear on the screen. For example, if I click the bottom center option, the text will be placed at the bottom center. I can also place it at the top or anywhere else I want. For now, I'll keep it at the bottom, and with the position controls I can move it slightly upward. I'll raise it a little so it sits nicely above the bottom edge. I can also move it left or right, but this position works well for me. Then I make the text a bit smaller because I don't want it to be too big. If I want, I can change the color. Since all captions are selected, if I change the color here, it will affect all of them. For example, if I make them yellow, all subtitles become yellow. For now, I'll keep them white. We can always change it later. I can also add a background from here, add a stroke, add a shadow, and control how that shadow looks. All of this depends on your own style and taste. Right now, the subtitles look very flat and a bit boring, so I want to add animation to them. Remember that you can always double-click on any subtitle and edit the text if you need to fix or change something. Now I select all the captions in the timeline, go to the Graphics and Titles menu, and click on Upgrade Captions to Graphics. This converts all subtitles into regular graphic text layers. I click on it and wait a moment. Now you can see that all the captions that were subtitles are converted into graphic text layers. Let me make this panel a bit bigger so you can see better. I'll move them slightly downward carefully so their order doesn't change. Now I want to change the color of some specific words. Let me move everything a little lower so we can see the text more clearly. For example, I select the layer that contains the word live. From the fill option, I can easily change its color. I choose yellow. The color changes instantly. I can do the same for another word. Let me turn off snap for a moment and zoom in a little so I can move more freely. I select the next word and also make it yellow. Now, if I play the video, you can see that those specific words change color. Now let's make it more exciting by adding animation. I select the first word, which is live. Keep in mind that when you select the text, you can still change its size, color, and all other settings from the Properties panel. I make it a bit bigger. I scroll forward slightly so I can see it clearly. I go to the Effect Controls panel and open the Scale property. I want to create a scale animation. The most important thing here is that we must set the anchor point to the exact center of the word. That way, when it scales up, it grows from its center. So I select the anchor point, then with the selection tool, I move this blue point and place it right in the center of the word. Now if I change the scale, you can see it grows perfectly from the center. If the anchor point is not centered, the animation will look wrong and messy. So this step is very important. Now I place the playhead at the first frame, click on Toggle Animation for Scale, and set the scale to 95. Then I move a little forward in time and set the scale to 103. It shouldn't be too big or too small. 103 is a nice subtle value. Then at the end, I set it back to 100. If I play it now, you can see the animation. The word gets slightly bigger and then returns to its normal size. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see it better. You see how live pops up and settles back nicely. To make this motion smoother, I right-click on the first keyframe and choose Ease Out. Then I select the other two keyframes, right-click, and choose Ease In. You'll notice the graph changes slightly. Now if I play it, the motion feels much smoother and more professional.
Life is not about perfection. It's about growth.
At the beginning, the scale starts smaller at 95, then it goes up to 103, and finally it settles at 100. This gives a really nice punchy animation to the text. Right now, this animation is only applied to one word. To apply it to all the other words, I simply right-click on this text layer and choose Copy. Then I select all the other text layers, right-click, and choose Paste Attributes. This panel opens and asks which attributes I want to paste. I can leave everything checked and click OK. Now the animation is applied to all of them. If I press tilde to go full screen and play the video, you can see that now all the subtitles have a beautiful animated scale effect.
Life is not about perfection. It's about growing, learning, and moving forward. One small step at a time.
This way, we not only created subtitles for our video, but we also turned them into dynamic, eye-catching animated captions. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you in the next video. In this video, we're going to correct the lighting and color of this clip using the Lumetri color panel. First, I select my clip in the timeline. Pay attention to this. If you have several clips in your timeline, only the clip that is selected will be affected by the color changes you make. Now I go to the window menu and enable Lumetri color from here, so you can see its settings in this panel. But there's an easier and more practical way to access it. I come to the Workspace menu and choose the color Workspace. When you click on it, the Lumetri color panel moves to the right side, and we get much better and faster access to all of its controls. In the basic correction section, we have the Input LUT option. If you open it, you can use the built-in presets. Each preset gives you a different color look and intensity. But in most cases, it's better to adjust everything manually so we can get the best result for our own video. So I leave this on None. Also, if I want a very quick and basic color correction, I can use the Auto button. When you click it, after a few moments Premiere automatically applies a correction to your video. This is not usually very accurate and is mostly useful only when you're in a hurry and need a fast, rough correction. To go back to the original state, I click on Reset so all the settings return to their default values. In the color section, using temperature, I can make the image warmer or cooler. I can increase it to add warmth, or decrease it to make the image cooler. For example, for this video, I'll set it to around 3. Keep in mind that all of these values are different for every video. Right now, setting the temperature to about 2 or 3 makes the image slightly warmer, which works well here. For other videos, you might have very cold colors in the scene, like a lot of blue or green, and you may want to increase the temperature more. Or if your image has too much yellow or orange light, you can lower the temperature and push it a bit toward blue. With tint, we can shift the colors toward green or toward magenta. You can use this to remove unwanted color casts. I don't need it right now, so I'll press Ctrl+Z and leave it at 0. Saturation controls the intensity of colors. If I increase it, the colors become more vivid. If I decrease it, the image moves toward black and white. I'll undo that and leave it at 100 for now. With exposure, we can make the overall image brighter or darker. Usually, I fine-tune this toward the end. But something that is very important here is contrast. If I increase it, you can see how much more alive the image becomes. Highlights control the bright areas of the image. When I increase it, the brightest parts get even brighter. I'll choose a value that feels natural for this shot. For the dark areas, we use shadows. I'll lower it a bit, maybe around -30 or -35, so we get deeper blacks and better depth in the image. Whites let us control the very brightest points in the image. We can make them brighter or darker. I'll adjust this slightly. Blacks control the darkest parts of the image. We can deepen them or lift them if needed. I'll make a small adjustment here as well. Now I go back to saturation and increase it just a little so the colors look more alive. For example, 103 works nicely here. If I turn all these settings on and off, you can clearly see the difference. This was our video before, and after these changes, the image quality and visual appeal are much better. Now let's close the basic correction section and open curves. In the RGB curve section, we have our first curve, which lets us adjust the overall brightness as well as the red, green, and blue channels. Remember that every video is made from these 3 primary colors: red, green, and blue. For now, I'll work on the white curve, which controls overall brightness. When I select it, the curve becomes white. If I click on it and drag it upward, the image becomes brighter. If I drag it downward, the image becomes darker. To remove a point, I hold Ctrl and click on it. Now I create a point here, another point here, pull this one slightly down, and push this one slightly up. This creates a subtle S-curve, which increases contrast and makes the image look more dynamic. If I turn this on and off, you can see again how much the image quality improves. Before correction, our video looked like this. And now, after these adjustments, the quality is clearly much better. On the left side, you can see the Lumetri scopes panel. If you don't have it active, you can go to Window and enable Lumetri scopes from there. Here, you can see how the light and colors are distributed. When I disable Lumetri color and go back to the original video, you'll notice the colors are more compressed. With our corrections, the colors are spread more evenly. They are not crushed and not clipped, and this gives us a much better looking image. Now in the hue versus saturation curve, we can select a specific color in the image and increase or decrease its saturation. For example, I can make the color of this subject's pants more vivid or more muted. I just use the eyedropper tool and click on the orange color. 3 points appear on the curve. By raising the middle point, the orange color becomes more saturated. Keep in mind that this affects all orange tones in the image, not just the pants, so you'll see other orange areas become stronger as well. We can also lower it to reduce the intensity of that color. We don't need it right now, so I'll turn it off, or I can hold Control and remove all the points. In the hue versus hue curve, we can select a color and change its actual hue. Again, I select the orange color, move the middle point, and you can see how that color shifts to different tones. Personally, I don't use this curve very often, so I'll hold Control and remove the points. With the hue versus luma curve, we can make a specific color brighter or darker. I select the same orange color, and you can see how we can darken it or brighten it independently from the rest of the image. All of these tools give us very precise control over our colors. Now, if I close these curves, another important section is vignette. When I enable it and increase the amount, you can make the edges brighter or darker. Usually, we use a dark vignette around the subject to draw attention to the center of the image. You can also adjust the feather and other settings to control how soft and wide the vignette is. I'll disable it for now because I don't need it in this project. So in the end, you saw that using basic correction and RGB curves, we were able to properly color correct our clip. These are the most important and practical parts of the Lumetri color panel that you really need to know. I'll see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, through a practical project, I'm going to show you step by step how to clean, balance, and professionally standardize your audio using the Essential Sound panel. First, I import my main clip into the timeline. This is the video we're going to work with and add different sounds to. When I click on the clip, you can see that it already has an audio track. But if I play it, you'll notice that this sound is basically empty or useless for our project. To remove it, I simply right-click on the clip, choose Unlink so the audio separates from the video, select the audio, and press Delete to remove it. As I mentioned in the previous lessons about the timeline, we have several audio tracks, usually labeled A1, A2, A3, and so on. Most of the time, we use A1 for dialogue. So now I bring my dialogue audio into the timeline. As soon as I do that, Premiere automatically detects that this sound is dialogue. You can see from the icon and labeling that it clearly recognizes it as dialogue. Now I play it so you can hear it.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds, and distant footsteps. Nature speaks without words.
On the second track, I add the music for my clip. I play everything again.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds, and distant...
As you can hear, the music is much louder than the dialogue, which is not acceptable at all. That's exactly what we're going to fix in this lesson. On the third track, I add my ambient sound, for example, forest or environmental sound. Play it again.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds...
If I only want to hear the ambient sound, I can click on the solo button for that track and play it. Now you can hear the environment and the birds very faintly, and obviously this also needs adjustment. If I click on any audio clip, in the Properties panel I can manually increase or decrease its volume. For example, I play the clip.
In the heart of the wild. Distant footsteps. Nature speaks.
And if I want to bring everything back to its default state, I just click on Reset. If I increase the volume, you can see that the waveforms become bigger. If I decrease it, the waveforms become smaller. And again, I can reset everything. If I double-click here to zoom in, you can see that this audio clip has two waveforms stacked on top of each other. That means this is a stereo clip. Normally, a mono recording has only one waveform. In reality, my voice is recorded as mono, but it's duplicated to both left and right channels so it plays equally from both speakers. For dialogue, mono is usually more common, while stereo is mostly used for music because it creates a sense of space and direction. Still, dialogue can also be in stereo, and that's fine. Now I zoom in a little so you can see the tracks more clearly. To start working professionally on the sound, I need to activate the Essential Sound panel. I can go to the Window menu and enable Essential Sound from there, or I can simply switch my workspace to the Audio workspace. That gives me an environment that is optimized for audio work. When I select the dialogue clip, you can see that the dialogue section automatically becomes active. If I select the music clip, the music section opens automatically. This shows that Premiere is correctly identifying our audio types. I go back to dialogue. Here we have some ready-made presets like simulating sound recorded in a large room or a small room, but I usually don't recommend using these too much. One of the most important options is Enhanced Speech. With just one click, Premiere uses AI to analyze the voice and improve its clarity and quality, so I always enable this. After a few seconds, the changes are applied. I activate solo so we only hear the dialogue and play it.
Life never stops. Every sound tells a story. The wind, the birds, and distant footsteps.
Next, I open the loudness section. First, make sure it's enabled. Then I just click on Auto. Premiere automatically adjusts the volume level to a standard, professional loudness. You can see that the sound becomes slightly louder and more balanced.
Nature speaks without words, and balance is.
Then I close this section. In the Repair section, we have tools for noise reduction. If your audio has background noise, you can reduce it from here. Reduce noise lowers environmental noise. If I increase it too much, the sound becomes more muffled because Premiere is trying hard to remove the background. Since my audio doesn't have much noise, I turn this off. If your camera introduced noise, you can reduce it from here as well. The hum is used to remove electrical hum at 50 or 60 Hz. If you have that problem in your recording, this is the tool to use.
The birds and distant footsteps.
I turn it off for now. DS reduces harsh S sounds, and reduce reverb is great if your voice was recorded in a room with echo. I don't need them right now, so I close this section. Now, in the dynamic section, it's very important to enable it and click on Reanalyze so Premiere analyzes the audio again. I play the clip.
Nature speaks without.
If you increase this too much, for example above 3, the sound can become unnatural.
Birds. And balance is the key.
Around 3 is usually a good balance. Then I enable EQ and choose the Vocal Presence preset. This makes the voice clearer and more forward. I also enable Vocal Enhancer, which has a huge impact on clarity and strength of the voice. Now when I play it, you can clearly hear how much stronger, cleaner, and more professional the dialogue sounds.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story. The wind, the birds, and distant footsteps.
If I turn off solo and play everything together, you really feel how much the sound has improved.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story.
If needed, I can still fine-tune the volume from here, but for now it's fine. I close this section. Now I select the music clip. You can see it is recognized as music. In loudness, I again click Auto so Premiere sets a proper level. Then I enable ducking. You don't need to change anything else here. Ducking is used so that when dialogue is playing, the music automatically becomes quieter, and when there is no dialogue, the music becomes louder. To demonstrate this, I cut my dialogue clip. I select it, press Ctrl+K to make a cut, and move the second part to the end. Now I select the music clip again and simply click Generate Keyframes. You can see keyframes appear on the music clip. Where there is dialogue, the music volume is reduced. Where there is silence, the music becomes louder automatically. I play it, and you can immediately hear how professional this sounds.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds, and distant footsteps. Nature speaks without words, and balance is the key to survival.
In small projects like this, we're using short clips. But in bigger projects with long videos and many sounds, this feature saves a huge amount of time and makes your workflow much faster and more accurate. If needed, I can still manually increase or decrease the music volume, but right now it feels perfect. Now I select the ambient sound clip. Again, I just click Auto in the loudness section. Premiere adjusts it automatically. You can see that the parts with birds and environment become clearer. I play everything.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds, and distant footsteps. Nature speaks without words, and balance is the key to survival.
If I feel the ambient sound is still too loud, I can simply reduce its volume slightly from here until it sits nicely under the dialogue and music.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds, and distant footsteps. Nature speaks without words, and balance is the key to survival.
So you can see how quickly and professionally we managed to balance all the sounds using Premiere and its smart audio tools. Now let me clean up a bit. I select these clips, press Ctrl+K, make a cut, and delete the extra parts. I zoom in a little, select unnecessary keyframes, and delete them. We don't need them now. You can also manually move keyframes. For example, if I don't want the music to drop suddenly, I can zoom in and drag the handles so the volume fades gradually instead of cutting abruptly. I can do the same at the beginning to create a smooth fade-in. This creates a much more natural feeling. I select the program monitor, press the tilde key to maximize it, and play everything again.
In the heart of the wild, life never stops. Every sound tells a story, the wind, the birds, and distant footsteps. Nature speaks without words, and balance is the key to survival.
This is how we can quickly and professionally balance dialogue, music, and ambient sound in Premiere. I'll see you in the next video. Great job on completing this lesson. Since this is a beginner course, take your time and practice what you've learned before moving on. In the next lesson, we'll continue step by step and build on today's skills. More beginner-friendly lessons are coming, and we'll move forward together at a comfortable pace. See you in the next lesson.